Hi, welcome back to Mr. Money Invest. Today I have two very special guests on the show, and they are the key drivers of this IPO company called Radium Development Berhad, which is slated to go on the main market on the 31st of May 2023. But before I go into the details of the IPO, I would like the guests to introduce themselves.
Hi, I'm Gary, MD for Radium. I've been in this property industry for more than 20 years. Initially, I was attached with Platinum with 3, and then in 2013, I've incorporated Radium Development Berhad.
Hey, hi. So I'm Sydney. I'm the non-executive, non-independent director. Dato' Gary and I have been partners since 2005, and I've also been involved in property development for about 20 years.
In your early days when you started this company in 2013, right, the operation was pretty much involved in early stage planning of a development project and also helping companies to get all those necessary approvals. But how did the company pivot into building your own properties?
Actually, that is a part and parcel before you start the development project. There's a part and parcel. You need to get the approval from the authority. You need to start planning and then start to earmark which land you are interested to develop. So in the beginning of the few years, we have doing all the planning, submission for the DO. On 2017, once we got the approval, we start the launch of our first project.
Okay, I see. There are so many developers in Malaysia today. So what makes Radium so special?
For Radium, we know how to position ourselves, and then we also very clear on our target buyers. We are a property developer that focus in the KL-centric. The price range also in the affordable range. The price that we are focusing on is between 300,000 to 600,000, which is affordable to all those newly graduated, which is coming to work for maybe a couple of years. Those are our target buyers.
Are you going to brand yourself this way for the long run as a KL property developer, or are you going to go into different states as well?
We have no intention to move outside of KL. So in the next 5 years, we are still focusing in KL. Of course, we won't rule that out if there's an opportunity outside of KL, if the land is strategic and the price is competitive, then yes, we might be considered develop venture into.
Since now the property sector is so quiet, right? What do you think is the outlook of the property market in the next, say, 5 years?
After the pandemic has happened, so the property sector has been stagnant for quite many years. So moving forward, I see there's only upside rather than a downside. I used to be a very conservative people. For example, during the year 2008, when there's a US subprime mortgage crisis, there's a short period of time where there's a layoff, and then also people are quite worrying. At that period of time, so I was thinking, probably property is very difficult to sell. But what I learned throughout my career is we need to be confident. We need to have a positive outlook for our future. Then, immediately the project, then you can sell.
Based on your prospectus, right, maybe Sydney, you can help to answer this, is that I noticed you blend some of your more premium products together with affordable housing. Wouldn't that affect the value of your premium products? Is there a reason for doing that blend?
Okay, so the way that we have actually blended it is that the decision was actually primarily based on location. Whilst the price per square foot did go up, for that particular project, we're talking about the Chancery, the average selling price is still below 600,000 ringgit. So the only difference is the average unit size is slightly smaller. We are looking at 500-600 square feet. But because the location is so near KL city centre, and we are still targeting working class, maybe it could be a young professional couple. They are able to afford maybe a slightly higher monthly payment, but they want to live very near to city centre. We offer a product that is premium, very nice, very modern. We even offer the option of them buying it fully fitted out and below 600,000 ringgit. So we are staying true to our philosophy. We are a developer focused on providing housing to the working class in Kuala Lumpur. So the working class, it could be a couple that is making combined income of 10,000 ringgit, as high as 20,000-30,000 ringgit. So if you're making a bit more as a combined income as a couple, then I think this project would be very attractive.
But say, for example, if I bought a house in your condo project, right? But knowing that my neighbor is someone who bought the same unit at the exact same location for a much cheaper price because of all this government housing project. So wouldn't that let the buyers feel a little bit inferior?
For me, to be honest, if you ask me the property price at 300,000, I don't think you should consider that as a low cost. For 300,000 is actually affordable. It's actually the government initiative to help the first-time home buyer to own a home. So that is not a low cost at all. If you have a property at a free market unit, bundled together with the residency wilayah, which is those affordable house. Usually for our design, we have a separate entrance.
All right, so your projects are between, I think, 68% to 97% completion, which makes total sense to raise money now for land banking purposes for future development projects, right? We notice all projects that launch pre-2020, that means pre-COVID-19 period, they're all fully sold. And how did you manage that feat? And with the property overhang as a major issue today, how do you manage your future launches?
The location is very important. So when you buy a property, people always say location, location, and location. That is the main consideration when you try to own a property. So for us, whenever we choose a piece of land for development, so the first thing we'll look at it is either one of the 4 elements that we can get. Either is it near to the LRT, MRT station? Is it accessible to the major highways? Or is it near to the school or near to the hospitals? These are the major consideration we will consider. If the land consists of any one of these criteria, then we will consider to purchase the land and start our development. If there's none, then probably we won't consider. That's why all our land is quite strategic, so it can sell.
So you're not worried at all that you will have all this overhang problem?
Just to add on that, all our previous launch projects are fully sold. We do not have any overhang unit. Our buyers like our products.
In 2016, you started to go into hotel operations, right? And the Chancery project in Ampang also incorporates a hotel as well, right? What was the rationale behind venturing into hotel operations? Because you guys are more familiar with construction of a building, right?
One of the key reasons why we want to build and retain this hotel within the Chancery block, this particular tower, is because we want a consistent monthly cash flow. So whilst Radium, we are a net cash company, the nature of the business for any developer is our cash flow is very erratic, in the sense that when you launch a project, you have a very big inflow of funds, but during the months in between the launches, your cash flow will taper off. With the retention of this 5-6 floors that we are going to use as a hotel, the hotel business will give us recurring cash flow of between 5 to 700,000 ringgit every month. So it makes sense for us.
For the Chancery, I understand that you may operate the hotel on your own, or you may also find an international brand to come and operate the hotel. Honestly speaking, right, both of you, which is the structure that you guys prefer and why?
Actually, both options is advantageous. For us, what we will consider first is if we were to invite the international brand to come in as an operator, will that help elevate the whole project? Because for this, not only at the hotel, we have another 944 units of Soho on top of it. If let's say international brand hotel operator come in, they will help elevate the property value. Yeah.
I think Dato and I have discussed this at length. I do agree with him. The inclination now is to go towards working with an international brand. Specifically for that reason he mentioned, right? Buyers of our Soho units at the Chancery, they like to have that identity. They like to be able to tell people, I'm living at this same tower with this hotel there, rather than it being just one of the Radium branded properties. So it's a branding thing, it's that identity, the whole image for that location changes once you have an international brand also in play.
So as the company matures, I think you guys are starting to think about building that recurring income for your future profitability, right? Can we expect more hotel developments from Radium Development in the future?
For us, our main focus is still on property development. For hotel business, if let's say moving forward, we have the opportunity to identify a land which the price is competitive and the location is strategic, then we won't rule out the possibility of having another hotel.
Looking at your financials, right, the business has a consistent margin of more than 20%, which I think is great, it's fantastic. But then I always thought that developers that got themselves involved in affordable housing, typically their margin will be lower because the unit selling price of their property is also lower. So how do you guys manage that?
We are very disciplined in cost management. Whenever QS submitted the costing, we will still run through all the costing once again. So we won't just take it as it is. And then also for us, Gan family, we started off as a building material supplier. So we are good at sourcing for the material which is cheaper in price, but not compromising the quality.
Well, that's great, but with the world going crazy today, high inflation, raw material prices going up, can you sustain that 20% margin going forward?
Okay, just like what Dato mentioned earlier, we are confident that we are going to be able to sustain a margin of approximately 20% for our projects because, again, we are very disciplined when it comes to cost management. Not only is there a good ability by the MD and his brothers, the other two EDs, in maintaining costs, but in all other aspects, not just for raw material, in terms of our relationship with our contractors, we are very disciplined when it comes to cost management. So we are confident that 20% or thereabouts will be maintained.
You have surprisingly low gearing when it comes to your business. How are you able to achieve that?
Usually for all our projects, after first year the launch is fully sold, we have a healthy cash flow coming in. That helps us to lower down our gearing.
So basically, because you're able to sell your property unit fast, so you can use that cash to fund for your next project. Given the property sector is not the most favorite thing in the market right now, how do you justify your valuation in this IPO?
We actually would like to highlight that we have crafted our IPO scheme very cautiously. A lot of thought has been put into it. We feel that the valuation for Radium is very fair for several reasons. We want to emphasize that there is no offer for sale, meaning that every Ringgit that we raise from this IPO process, this whole exercise, comes into the company. Every Ringgit out of the 434 million that we are raising. I also like to highlight that we have a young and dynamic team. The managing director, Dato Gary, he's only 42 years old. The other directors on the board, his siblings, they are also young. So that's another key strength. We want to also emphasize, again, we have 10 directors, 5 of whom are independent. So governance, strong. We are serious about governance. In terms of valuation also, because we are a net cash company, going forward, we also will practice a regime where we don't borrow a lot of money. And going forward, 2023, 2024, we foresee that we will also be net cash, which is very unusual for developers. We are different from our competitors. So our discipline in providing affordable housing within the Kuala Lumpur area, meaning that every product that you buy from Radium has a Kuala Lumpur address. It's priced between 300 to 600,000 ringgit. It means our cash flow will likely remain strong. And that's why we feel our valuation is indeed fair.
Sydney, in this IPO, right, the company is raising 434 million ringgit. Most of it will be for land acquisition, hotel construction, and also paring down some of the bank borrowings. And out of this few category, right, I think a big chunk of it is going into land acquisition. Have you identified potential land banks to acquire?
Yes, actually, we have already identified. Some amount of disclosure is already in the prospectus, but the announcements for the SPAs will only come, I think, right after the listing process.
Can you share maybe where's the location of the land bank and things like that?
Okay, before that, maybe I will tell a little bit more about the launches for 2023 this year. So we already launched a Jalan Ampang project, the Chancery, value about GDP about 500 million. And then we also going to launch another project at Salak South, Sungai Besi. The project is a 1 billion GDP project. We intend to launch it in June or July this year. And then once the company get listed, we will have a JV project. The land is at Kepong, Mukim Batu. And GDP is about 500 million. And then also we have identified 3 parcels of land in Mukim Petaling. It's actually located at Old Klang Road and also in Sungai Besi. Total GDP for these 3 parcels of land is about 1.4 B. So all add up together, we have total about 3.4 billion GDP of project that could last us for the next 5 years.
So let's just play a scenario here on the back of envelope calculation, right? Future GDP for the next 5 years, 3.4 billion. Let's say you can fetch a margin of 20% based on your past track record. We are looking at 600 million in the next 5 years or so. That is the kind of number you guys are looking at, right? Okay, cool. I noticed that you guys have a large board of directors. 10 in total, in fact, right? What's the story there?
Okay, so this is actually a very deliberate decision that we made. The reason we have 10 directors is because we wanted to have as credible as possible a board Out of the 10, 5 are independent. The chairman of our board is a gentleman by the name of Tan Sri Amin. He used to be the mayor of Kuala Lumpur himself before retirement. And the other 4 independent directors, 4 are ladies. We are sending a very clear message to the investing public. Governance is very important. Whilst the controlling shareholder is a family, namely Dato Gary and his siblings, but that doesn't mean that we are not intending to run the company, or we have never run the company in a way that implies that governance is not important. Going forward, we want to send a clear message that Dato Gary has very big strategic plans for the company. So for us to actually attract fund managers and also attract retail investors, I think the message to the investing public has to be clear. Governance is important. That's why we have a big board. That's why we are looking at 50% composition of independents. And out of the 4 ladies on the board, I want to highlight that one lady was previously with the Securities Commission for 20 years prior to retirement. Then we also have another lady that served Bursa Malaysia for 25 years, also just prior to her retirement. So we did spend a lot of time seeking out highly qualified, highly competent professionals in their own fields to be on the board as independent directors.
All right, sounds like a very solid board over there. She got me a little bit excited, but if I were to subscribe to Radium Development shares through the IPO exercise, can I expect a consistent dividend from the company?
Our company have a dividend policy of no less than 30% of the profit. So we intend to honor it moving forward.
Right, but even though it is stated in the prospectus that you intend to pay out no less than 30% of your net profit, but your business tend to rely on that fast turnover of projects. When can you launch, whether it can be sold or not? So how can you give confidence to the investment community that yes, I can consistently commit to that amount of dividend going forward? Maybe Sydney, you can help to address that.
I think we can look at the track record on dividend payments. Prior to listing, we obviously control 100% of the company when it was still Radium Berhad. We have always paid dividends every year because we sell products that are affordable. That means that our home buyers don't have such a big issue. They don't really have big difficulty securing their loans from their banks. So when that's the position, typically within 12 months, we are fully sold. So cash flow has always been strong. With good cash flow and our history of consistent dividend payment, we are confident that going forward, post-listing, this will still be our regular behavior. I think the investing public needs to note that prior to listing, we control 100%. Post-listing, we still control 75%. There is no offer for sale. So there is no reason for us not to continue with the behavior of consistent high dividend payments.
Yeah, because ultimately you guys are the major shareholders. More dividend means you guys also benefit as well, right?
Exactly.
Okay, so that comes to the end of the interview. But before I end the show, any last words for our audience out there?
Okay, I always tell our employees getting the company listed is just the beginning of the journey. It's not the end. So we will continue to work hard. Of course, now I would like to thank all those investors that already committed. Thank you for their word of confidence. I hope came listing date, the floor is set, and then the sky is the limit.
Wow. Sydney, any last words?
I think we are all excited with the IPO on the 31st, just like what Dato mentioned. I think I should also highlight that we have offered 30 million ringgit of shares to our employees, and that has been fully taken up. And that actually puts a lot of pressure on him as the MD, because we obviously don't want our own employees not to benefit from the IPO process, which everyone has contributed greatly for us to get here. So just like what the MD has said, he has set the tone, he has set the bottom line, and sky's the limit. So we are looking forward to the 31st.
I'm really excited for you guys. I mean, all the best for the IPO, and hopefully Radium Development Berhad can really see the sky in the future.
Thank you very
thanks.
much.
Yeah, thanks, gentlemen. Thanks for your time today.